William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I welcome you to another Two Hats special of community events. Let's look in and see what's really happening.
And good afternoon and welcome to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet. I'm here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink. Our guest today is Jay Malone. He is the founder and head of Indivasable DFW, which is a new, well, we'll hear about what it is exactly. Lerone.
Yeah, well, am I?
Yeah.
Okay. The mission... I can't hear myself. The mission of Indivasable DFW is listed as to be inclusive, an inclusive coalition to the fight to the rise of tyranny in America. And I would agree with that. Tell us more. What does that mean?
So basically, the way that we look at it is the fight is not anymore about left and right. It's more about democracy versus autocracy. So that's why we're focusing on this really inclusive message so that we can talk to conservatives, libertarians, and liberals, everybody who is willing to fight for American democracy. So when we're talking about the rise of tyranny, we're talking about a real threat to people in our communities. You know, this is something that I think a lot of previous movements have talked about in this abstract way, but they haven't really had the the real legislation and the real actions by the people in, our state house in Austin, bills like SB 4 and SB 6, and things like the Muslim ban coming out of DC. This is real tyranny. These are attacks on groups of people for nothing more than being part of a religious group or having a certain identity. It's nothing more than that, and that's tyranny. That's as we define it. So our goal in DFW is to connect people across this region so that we can have a coalition that will be able to face down the greatest threat to American democracy in the post-war era.
And this isn't just at the the federal level. We're talking about local also.
We're talking about local because the best way to fight tyranny is in our local communities. This is the mistake that we keep making over and over again. We only focus on the presidency. That's why we were lulled into a slumber over the last 8 years, because we had Obama. Obama was amazing, but starting in 2010, we started to lose ground. And now, we are in such a weak position in the Congress and in the State House. We don't have the means to really effectively push back at those levels. We can still hold our representatives' feet to the fire and make sure that they understand their consequences when they hurt our communities. But the best way to do it, if you want to push back against Betsy DeVos and her attacks on public schools, you got to find people in your school board that are going to take a stand. If you want to fight back against the tyranny coming into our communities, you need to have a city council that is going to say, this is a sanctuary for our people. The people that live in Dallas, the people that live in Fort Worth, wherever it is, they're going to stand up for those people. And that's where we can really make a difference.
The organization this is Indivasable DFW, but it's all over the country.
Yeah. Indivasable now has over 7,000 chapters throughout the country.
Wow.
It's really impressive.
Pretty fast growth since it started when? 2 weeks ago?
The original guide, the Indivasable guide, was released in December. And it really it started in January. That's when the chapters started to form, because the original guide.
But as a reporter, I listened to what the White House says at the press briefings, and he said all of this, protesting. It's an East and West Coast thing in a couple of the major liberal cities.
So and we're all paid.
And everybody goes is paid, of course. So how much are you paid for this?
I have never been paid for this.
Right. Oh, okay.
He gets the same that we get for doing the show.
Oh, okay.
A big old check of zero.
Right.
But 7,000 chapters. Where are some of the places your group is?
So a lot of people think this is an Austin movement. This is a Dallas movement. But just last week, we went to the founding of the chapters in Waxahachie and in Rockwall. And
see, liberal cities. Left-wing liberal Waxahachie.
exactly, yeah. When you think of liberal cities, New York, San Francisco, Waxahachie, right? Like that's usually how it goes.
Bastions of progressivism.
But that's the amazing thing. At the founding of the Rockwall, of Indivisible Rockwall, we had 70 people there. At the founding of Indivisible Waxahachie, we had almost 50. And that's something that really gets me excited, because when you go out to the communities around North Texas, you go out to places like Midlothian. There are people now in Indivisible in Midlothian. You go down into Johnson County. There's an Indivisible Johnson County now. Out in Parker County, Weatherford has an Indivisible chapter now.
Liberal cities.
Well, this is really, it's turning into North Texas. It's a way for Dallas to support the good folks that are basically feel like they're living under totalitarian regimes in places like Ellis County.
And what's interesting to me is the demographic shifts we saw in the 2010 census. For the first time ever in Texas, we had more urban population than we had rural population. Not by much, but there's a shift there. And I think it's one of the things that influenced, for example, the Wendy Davis run, was that if we could get the vote out, the volume out in the urban areas, that could, impact the election in a way that would overcome a lot of the rural votes. But people in rural areas vote, and this election and the consequences from it are really showing an urban versus rural divide. So, it's really coming to the fore in ways we've not really seen before, certainly from within the Democratic Party. But I'm elated to hear all of these groups coming from these rural towns that are, they're not big city things. Dallas is the largest city
gun barrel city
in the country.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Give us some time. But this is something.
Tyler
has one. Yeah. That's something where a lot of the folks out in rural Texas think that the people in Dallas don't care about them. So that's why we definitely care. That's the thing. We do care. I care about the folks down there in Waxahachie. Because, they have to do the real hard work. Mm-hmm. Living up here in Dallas, it's pretty easy right now. Dallas is definitely a safe city. And we have people in Dallas that'll fight for us. But in Waxahachie, they have people that are fighting against them. And it's actually dangerous to believe something different in places like Waxahachie. And that's what's got to change. Because it's only 30 minutes drive from where I live in Dallas.
Waxahachie is as far from downtown Dallas as parts of Plano.
It's crazy.
But what's interesting, like 15 years ago, Roger Waddell and I went over to Collin County and to Plano, and they were going to start the Collin County Gay and Lesbian Alliance. And Donetta Miller and Blue Martinez, organized a room at a friendly church, and we put out 25 chairs. And we just kept putting out chairs because they came from everywhere. I live in Anna. I live in Melissa. All this stuff. And we ended up with 76 people at that very first organizing meeting. They came out of the woodwork. They were hungry for communion together as a community. So it's exciting to me. And I remember that rush of adrenaline when all those people kept coming in the door, and we're like, we're not going to have enough chairs. We're not going to have enough chairs.
Did you hear last week?
It's the same sort of excitement. Don't you find that?
Did you hear last week? I forgot what Republican group it was, but some Republican group up in the Plano area, they're very worried about growth in Collin County. Because
we were just talking about
these people, those people that are moving in, they're coming from places like California.
Yeah.
What's that going to do to us?
So radicals.
Before the show, we were talking about the various different kinds of people that are getting involved with Indivisible. Talk a little bit about that. It's not just one group of people.
Yeah. So the important thing about Indivisible is that it really is a movement of moderates. This is something that is different than a lot of other movements that have sprouted up, and it's because of the stakes. The moderates in America now understand that they can't keep sleeping. They have to wake up and they have to get involved. I personally am definitely moderate. That's where my politics are. I would consider myself, left of center for sure. I'm progressive, but I'm
moderate. As far as there's a range. You don't have to be right on the line to be moderate.
That's true.
There's a range. You're left of absolute center, but you're there with the
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I was never involved in politics until the Women's March. That was my first experience in real activism, and it was mainly because my mother went to D.C. And when I saw her taken my sister. They drove down from Ohio down to D.C. with a big group of people.
Good for them.
Yeah, it was incredible. And they said that it was there
With
was
their
so
pussy
many
hats.
They did not wear those. That was a bridge too far from my mother. You know, like you got to draw the line somewhere, I guess. Yeah,
Because she's moderate.
That's right.
because she's moderate. Yeah, because that was her first experience
And she's so
too.
mommy.
Yeah, she is. You know, she wanted to set a good example, I guess.
Exactly.
That's a little bit too much for her. I mean, I love it. I mean, honestly, my friend Joanna Kadanek, she went to the mayor and gave him a pussy hat. She met with Joaquin Castro and gave him a pussy hat. If you look at our Instagram, you see these pictures of her with Joaquin Castro and with Mayor Rawlings. And I mean, there's something special about that. I love that. But at the same time, I mean, I know for my mom, I don't like the idea of her, you know, getting involved in that.
I'm right there with you.
But you know, when I saw my mom doing that, and we were lucky here in Dallas. Victoria Niave organized the Dallas Women's
She did
March.
a great job.
It was phenomenal. You know, it was like almost 10,000 people out there, and they planned it in a week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
You know, we had Victoria on our show, and I've seen her several
Sunday
times
right before
since. The Sunday. She's going to be a powerhouse down in the legislature.
well,
Yeah.
and that's something that we're really excited about because we're having our rally on March 5th. So March 5th, 2 p.m. at
next
Rockwall,
Sunday.
next Sunday, Rockwall Harbor Amphitheater, and Victoria is going to be our keynote speaker.
Oh, awesome.
So we're calling it the Rally for Texas because we're taking back Texas. That's what's really happening right now.
Rockwall.
And we're taking back Rockwall. So it's all going to be local candidates for elections. So the organizer, our Victoria for this, is a woman named Jessica Camacho. She's a first-time candidate in Mansfield ISD. And when you talk to her, the amazing thing about her run is that it was something that she should have done 10 years ago. You know, it's something she should have done before, but she didn't feel that urgency. And then she saw what was happening in the country, and she was worried about her two boys who were in Mansfield ISD. And she said, well, you know, now's the time to step up. And what she saw that's really important is also that this has to be a community effort. So she started reaching out to other candidates throughout North Texas. You know, she went up to Crowley. She went out to Arlington, to Grand Prairie, and she started meeting other candidates. So they're now building this community, and that's where this rally came from. Is the idea that like when our leaders fail us, we have to find new ones.
Right.
So that's what we're going to do.
And when you say, it's moderates, it's all parties, all of these are nonpartisan races.
These are all nonpartisan races. Exactly. That's where that democracy versus autocracy comes in. You know, right now we have representatives that refuse to go to town halls to meet with their constituents.
They should be very afraid.
But that is their job.
It is their job, exactly. That's the thing. Like, when they go to Kay Granger and Kenny Marchant, they went to a fundraiser last weekend in Fort Worth, the Lincoln Dinner, and neither of them have had town halls. So they have the time to go to meet with the big money donors, to wear a tuxedo and go out and meet with donors, but they don't have time for their constituents?
You know
Go
who
on.
did? Eddie Bernice.
Oh, sure.
There you go.
She wasn't afraid of her constituents.
But mine is Jeb Henserling, and he's nowhere to be found. He keeps saying, "Oh, well, we'll schedule something." Right.
When?
Right. I love this missing poster that it was in Austin in search of
saw that.
Lamar Smith. They put it up in like dog parks and stuff. They're looking for him, and it says missing representative answers to Lamar Smith. Lamar's small gray hair, glasses, can be friendly in small groups, likes to nip at scientists, does not come when constituents call. Last seen at a public town hall in Austin more than 2 years ago. Some reports never. Please contact Indivasable.
Yes.
Do you know whose town hall I want to go to? I just thought of it. Louis Gohmert.
Oh, he ran. You've got to check out Karen Wilkerson's.
So he had his already.
Oh, he ran to a car and ran into a building.
Oh, well, good.
Like it was raining. He had to get inside. Yeah. They're fearful.
One thing that I wanted to ask you, the actual foundation of this, the idea of how do we do this, didn't come from where you'd expect. It came from the Tea Party, didn't it?
So the idea to focus on local communities, that is something that the Tea Party did back in 2009 and 2010, because they were really worried about Obama coming in and taking their guns. And so what they decided was that they would create.
Was he successful at that?
Failed miserably.
We actually had some open carry protesters at the immigrant march last weekend. So from what I can tell, he was not successful.
Okay.
So the idea obviously did come from that. And again, like I come back to this, like the difference is they had this imaginary idea of tyranny that was all in their heads. We have the real deal right now. So we can use that concept, change it, so that it is focused, instead of just electing people we agree with, electing people that are actually going to do right by their communities, that know what they're doing, and rekindling faith in government. That's what really has to happen.
But you guys don't really want to be known as the antithesis of the Tea Party. Like,
No.
It's using the same tactics, though.
And that's what I was asking. Where did the basis from this come? Where
It was,
did the,
it was
the
6
tactics-
congressional staffers
Yeah.
who sat down and wrote this document and put it up and said, we've witnessed this over the past, here's what we've learned. We put it all together in a document. You can download the document for free, and that's what people have done.
So it's things that people learned from the
from watching the
experience
Tea
of
Party,
the Tea
yeah.
Party, which was very successful.
The difference that we have here in North Texas is that one of the members of our steering committee, Bobby Copeland, actually helped to found the Tea Party in North Texas. So the congressional staffers that wrote the guide, they definitely saw the effects of it, but Bobby was there on the ground floor.
And that's an interesting story. We only have a minute. Can you tell it quick, or should we wait till after the break?
I think we
'Cause
should
it's-
wait, because the
Okay.
Bobby story is pretty interesting.
Why don't we take a break? You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink. Our guest is Jay Malone from Indivasable DFW. We will be back with more right after this.
This is Rawlins Gilliland, and I'm listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3, and darn glad to be doing it.
And no, that was Rollins Gilliland. So, you're listening to Lambda Weekly. We're talking about Indivasable DFW with Jay Malone, who is the local founder and director.
It's on a steering committee.
Steering committee.
Steering
Member of
committee
steering
member.
committee.
Okay, good. The actual local organization was founded by somebody who was one of the local Tea Party founders.
Yeah, that's right.
Tell us that story, because it's an interesting story.
So, we're really fortunate because we have access to, the talent that's coming up right now. People from the startup community, people from the IT community that are getting into this, and that, are blowing the socks off of the traditional political establishment, right? The Tea Party didn't have that when they started. They were still able to do a lot. But the biggest advantage that we have is that we have the founding documents. We know how the Tea Party started because Bobby Copeland helped to do it. And Bobby's got a really interesting story. Bobby actually, his first experience in politics was working on the George W. Bush campaign in 2004. And he met George W. Bush. And, if you ever have an opportunity to meet Bobby, which I hope that everybody does, Bobby looks like the type of guy that would get along with George W. Bush. He's a good old boy from Garland. And
So's Lerone.
So Bobby, had this real interesting political transition where he was introduced to some of the founders of the Tea Party in Garland and in Dallas, in Allen, and they got him involved in what they were doing. And initially, the Tea Party was a very different beast when it originally started. This message of fighting to make sure that we don't have to pay these crazy taxes. Like, that was really what they were about. That's why, they were able to elect Scott Brown in 2010 with progressive support.
In Massachusetts, as a Republican.
Yeah.
And there was a time when the Tea Party was not in any way affiliated with the religious right, or what I like to call right-wingers. And the Family Research Council, focus on the family, and all those right-wingers who really hate the queer community and go after us professionally. They were not aligned at all, and those right-wingers were really worried about that. They wanted to form a relationship with the Tea Party, and now they're sort of perceived as totally unified and have been for a very long time. It's like it's those people that are far right, super far right, especially when we watch people saying, "I'm from the Tea Party, and we're gonna primary you from the right."
I think that's a perception about the way the Tea Party was founded. There was this pure message initially, but really the Tea Party from the very beginning knew what it was going after. They just were able to keep this nonpartisan, identity.
Veneer.
Basic veneer, yeah, as long as they could. And so Bobby worked on that, but the thing is that he very quickly was disillusioned, partially because he lost a child, his wife, and he had a stillbirth, and because of that, he was put into the high-risk pool in Texas, and his insurance shot through the roof. And so he said that Obama was his savior, basically, because he was in a position where his family was not going to be able to afford, the most basic essentials, of healthcare. And so when he ended up working on the Obama campaign in 2012 through OFA, and he was actually the third-ranked fellow in the state of Texas for OFA. And
that's pretty amazing.
That was, he went back, got his master's degree in black suffrage. So if you want to talk about the attacks on voting rights over the last 100 years, then Bobby knows all of that down pat. And that's how he knows what needs to happen. So we are incredibly fortunate here in North Texas to have somebody like Bobby who has that institutional knowledge that we're going to be able to use to really make a difference.
And to be clear, Obama didn't take his gun, right?
No, Bobby gave it up willingly.
Oh, okay.
Bobby, basically, like, if you talk to Bobby about Obama, it's this like reverence that borders on the religious. It's amazing, and that's something that we really need leaders for. Leaders need to inspire people like that, and leaders we have right now, unfortunately, a lot of them don't have that, and people like Victoria have it. Like when you talk to Victoria, she's something else. So that's what we got to focus on right now, is finding leaders that are going to lead us.
One of the things you were talking about, the Affordable Care Act, one of the things they need to do is replace Obamacare with the Affordable Care Act, and we'll be fine.
Yeah. And the Affordable Care Act, not Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act is its peak popularity at the moment. And it's still amazing to me that there's people hate Obamacare, but they love the ACA.
Love the Affordable
and whatever it takes, keep government out of my Medicare. It's
well, but that's the thing that we keep failing at. I was at the Bid Hot training for the Democratic Party last month, and Lee Bailey, who was a candidate in 2014, ran against Morgan Meyer. She was talking about the importance of messaging, and it's something that doesn't seem to be getting through to a lot of candidates, because they keep wanting to explain everything the way that they want it explained, instead of explaining it the way that their constituents or their voters are actually going to hear it. And that was what Victoria was really good at. She knew that her constituents were in Garland and Mesquite. And in Garland and Mesquite, you can't go in there with that really, really strong progressive message. You have to find ways to connect with them. And the ACA, that was what really got her through, because she was able to talk to people who were affected by the attacks on the ACA, and she was able to show them how she could help them. And you know what? She's gotten into the State House, and she's already doing it. The thing that she's done with the rape case backlog, the test backlog, has been phenomenal. And that's one of the most important issues for us in the state of Texas. And the fact that she has been able to do so much in this really short amount of time tells us that we're pretty fortunate to have somebody like Victoria.
She's a dynamo.
Yeah.
I remember meeting her at a city council budget meeting. They go out to neighborhoods before the budget every fall, and it was a year and a half before the election. And that's how you win. You start early too. Like, you would start now to expect to win in 2018. You got to get your ground game down and stuff. Because I thought, I was elated that this young attorney, vivacious, so bright. I'm like, wow, she's running, and she's in my next district. She wouldn't represent me. We still got Villalba in my district, but it's so exciting to see new candidates step up like that. And I hope that this spurs people now to do what they need to do to get organized, get a treasurer, get a campaign together, do it.
And talking about spurring people, in times of with the new administration, people are, whichever side of the aisle they're on, people are upset, they're pissed, or if something nationally happens, those are the times that people get out and get active. But sometimes it just dies down after a few months. What is an Indivasable or anybody who knows that we need to take things back? How do you sustain this movement?
Well, the important thing about any political movement is that you need to have wins. So the advantage that we have here in the state of Texas is that we're going to have an election very quickly, May 6th. So May 6th, throughout the state of Texas, that's the municipal elections. So school board, city council, mayor. And because of that, we're not going to turn this into a referendum, but we do have opportunities to get people that our community cares about into office very quickly. And we start to build that momentum for 2018. Because, the thing is that you have the opportunity to vote up to 15 times between now and November of 2018. You have the county races, you have the municipal races, you have judges. You have a lot of opportunities to engage in the political process, but the difference that we're going to make is in that engagement, that civic engagement. That's what's going to keep people excited throughout this process. Because ultimately, if you're having rallies and protests every week, people are going to get worn out. Because people have families, people have jobs.
I am worn out right now.
I understand, yeah. I completely understand.
I got to one rally on Thursday night, and I just said, okay, what is this rally?
Yeah.
Oh, right. This is the transgender rally. It's getting to that point where burnout on rallies.
Oh, for sure.
But every single one is well attended because one is protesting something more outrageous than the next.
Yeah. He's feeding that, though. Trump is.
Sure he is.
Look what he did on Thursday. It's a Thursday or Friday, where he banned certain media outlets from a White House gaggle. That's unprecedented in our history as a country.
Here's what is so stupid about that. Fake news, and we're not going to have the people who are reporting the fake news. And by the way, did you hear what happened, the terrorist incident in Sweden last night?
Mm-hmm.
Who's giving the fake news? He is.
Oh, absolutely. And but those kinds of actions, I think, if you were tired, you're going to get a renewed level of pissed off. Mm-hmm. And, because I certainly... like,
three times a week I'm getting a renewed pissed off.
Well, but it's a re-energizing kind of thing. When every time he takes every time he opens his mouth or his thumbs go on Twitter, it's a new outrage.
But that's why we got to connect it with the real change, which comes with the ballot box. Mm-hmm. And that's why when I go to these protests, I'm always finding ways to connect people with civic engagement. The importance of voting, the importance of getting registered, the importance of becoming a deputy registrar. If you can do it, you definitely need to go to one of the trainings for Dallas County. We had one with Battleground Texas last weekend. Over 100 people there on a Saturday morning. And
what are these trainings?
I guess it was yesterday, actually.
It just seems like a week and a half ago. What are these trainings so that people understand what it is?
The deputy voter registrar.
Yeah.
The elections department for Dallas County will come out to any group if there are substantial numbers, and you arrange it in advance, and they'll come, or you can go to scheduled ones they're at their office on Stemmons.
And what will you be learning to do?
You're learning how to register voters, and so you make a commitment. If you're going to go out there and register, you have to get the voter red cards in to the department. There's a commitment that you're making for your own time, but you can register people on the spot, and so it's an important thing because it's just like when you go to some place and you're at a festival and they want you to buy today, right now. So they'll take credit cards. They'll take anything you'll give them. Because in that moment when you say, yeah, I want to do this, you have to have somebody there to capture that moment. So if somebody's inspired to get registered to vote because they're not, you want to have that opportunity. You don't want to have to wait until, it's close to an election or somebody from the elections department mails something out to them. Now,
okay,
right now, you can go, let me get my
idea.
book in my car.
I have a stupid idea of the way it really should work. You don't have to register to pay your taxes, right? You don't have to register for jury duty. They just seem to find you. Why do you have to register to vote? If you're a Dallas County resident, paying taxes in Dallas County, serving jury duty in Dallas County, why can't you just vote where you live?
Well, that's going to happen when we change the makeup of our political system. But right now, what we have to get away from is right now talking about the perfect world, which is definitely the world that you described, and that's part of it, and focusing on the concrete steps that we can take to create a world where that can happen. Because I think that, as progressives, what we always do is we know what the problems in the country are, but we don't talk about how we can work in the world that exists to create a world that is going to be fair to everybody. And that's why, we're having this rally on the 5th, rally in at 2 o'clock in the Rockwell Harbor Amphitheater, Rally for Texas, because we want to connect people with the concrete steps that they're going to have to take. You know what you can do? I mean, right now, for local candidates, if you've ever wanted to get involved in politics, you can be a scheduler for a candidate. You can work their social media. You can probably be a campaign manager. And if you are good at that, then in 2020 or 2022, you might be running a congressional campaign.
For Dallas City Council, there are 38 candidates. There might be one or two that'll get disqualified, but is that a record, Patty? I think it is.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, I think it's close.
No,
to
we've had it in the past. If you go in mayoral years, we're not in a mayoral year this year for Dallas, but we've had as many as 56.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
So but 38 is a lot in a year where we had nobody who was term limited out.
Right.
So that's quite a few candidates. Mm-hmm. All those candidates need help.
Yes.
And then if you live in one of the suburbs, Garland has elections, Mesquite has elections.
Yeah, the filing deadline's passed.
No, I'm saying if you want to work on a campaign.
The filing deadline's passed, but these are these opportunities.
Yeah,
too.
well, we have a chapter at W.T. White High School in North Dallas, and what they're doing now is they're running social media for a candidate for school board in Melissa ISD. So Heather Kolinsky met with their chapter president, Carla Quinones, 2 weekends ago. And Carla is 17, so she obviously can't vote. But she wants to study political science in college. She wants to get involved. She probably will be a senator in 30 years, let's be honest here. And, she went out Sunday morning, with her counselor, Arlisha, and they went out there together and they met with Heather. And now they're working on social media. Those are the kind of things that you can do. And it doesn't matter if you're 17 or you're 37 or you're 57. Everybody has these opportunities to engage. And if you think you got talent, this is the time to step up because people need you. And by the way, everybody, Carla Quinones is going to be introducing Victoria at the rally. So get excited because Carla is something special. And it's going to be really fun to hear her talk.
And that's our future.
That's our future.
She's our future.
And you're saying, though, if you have talent, Patti has worked on campaigns for her whole life. You don't have to have talent.
I knew that was coming.
No, but and to expand upon your point, if you're interested in getting involved in a campaign, no matter what the campaign is for, whether it's an issue or if it's electoral politics, look at what you like to do and what you're good at. And what's needed, and you're going to find a mesh in there. If you're disabled, you can't walk door to door and become involved that way. You could manage a phone bank. There are things you could do from your home. There are all kinds of technologies today that you can help. Oftentimes, there's just an issue of putting data back in after somebody's block walk. They bring back all their papers, and you've got, these people are supportive, and because it takes 7 contacts to get somebody to the polls. From registration on. So just because you're registered didn't mean you're going to vote. We got to get those folks out. So there's lots to do. You can answer phones. You can change the toner in the copier.
Answering phones is one of those skills that's being lost, however, as people text.
Yes, that's definitely true.
I get a lot of people annoyed at me because I still make phone calls.
One of the greatest things is putting together yard signs. If you're really good at that,
that's crucial.
A couple hours, and that's the thing is, if you're volunteer for a campaign, you're not making this lifelong commitment. Like, oh my God, if I do something, I'm going to be stuck doing something forever.
It's like 6 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it can be an hour here, or 30 minutes here. It could be 4 hours on a Saturday. It could be what you make it because you're a volunteer. Volunteers don't fail. So, step
right,
up.
like here at KNON, Lerone, some of us get here in plenty of time. Some of us get here a little bit later, right?
Sailing on 2 wheels.
Okay, so you have 7,000 chapters. I find that amazing that there were 7,000 chapters after 2 months.
Right. Again, that's chapters, not people.
Oh no, people! It's I mean that would be over 1 million now. I mean across the country. I mean there's chapters in Lubbock and in Midland and in like Wichita Falls and out in Palestine.
Liberal cities. All of those liberal places.
Well, also all of those places I just mentioned had women's marches because the women's march for Indivasable was the real place that it kicked off. Because if you look at the rooms right now, you see that it's like 80% women in most of these rooms.
So which I love. I think that's so great that women are stepping up.
If somebody would, somebody's down in Gun Barrel City, somebody's in a town that doesn't have one of these yet. What should they do?
They should start an Indivasable chapter.
Yeah, how? So should they contact you? Should they?
You can contact me, info@indivasabledfw.org if you have any questions. The most important thing right now is to get the group together. And then you can figure out what your main focus is going to be. It should obviously be something that's relevant to your community, because ultimately what matters to Palestine isn't what matters to Plano, isn't what matters to Fort Worth, isn't what matters to Dallas. So focus on your local community, what matters to you. The folks in El Paso right now, they have a great group down there. They're really focusing on the wall. Because that is directly relevant to what they're doing. Up here in Dallas, we're focused on it too, but we don't have that same urgency.
Sure,
obviously.
We want a wall around Dallas County.
But yeah,
get in.
Email me info@indivasabledfw.org. I can give you information about what you need to do, and if you'd like us to come out, if you're in one of those North Texas counties, call us, email us, and we'll come out and we'll help you. We were in Rockwall and Waxahachie last week. We'll be in Weatherford.
So only W places.
Only Rockwall is not a W place. Come on.
Rockwall.
I got to work on my pronunciation, I guess.
I'm glad that I can be here to help.
But, we want to do the same kind of rally that we're doing in Rockwall in all of these outlying North Texas communities. It might not be as big as the one in Rockwall, but, we'll come out and we'll help you put together a rally, for 200 people. And in a place like Weatherford, that's going to really be a shot across the bow.
It is.
Yeah.
And if you're out there in one of those small towns and you have lunch with a friend of yours at Luby's and you're both on the same page, you pretty much started your own Indivasable, and then you get a third friend and a fourth friend, and they talk to other people, and it grows. That's how you start. Get the word out.
We need to take a break. Need to take a break. You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink. Jay Malone from Indivasable DFW is our guest, and we'll talk more about it right after this break.
Hi, this is Valletta Lil, and I listen to Lambda Weekly. I hope that you will too.
And welcome back to Lambda Weekly. Jay, who are some of the groups that... There's a reason that you wanted to come on Lambda Weekly. You're reaching out to the LGBT community because possibly the gay community might not think that the Trump administration has its best interests at heart. Where'd
you get that idea?
I don't know. Tell us about the kind of outreach that you're doing to different groups like the LGBT community.
Yeah, so we're going to be at the candidates meet and greet for Stonewall Democrats on the 11th, and our attitude is obviously what everyone should be, is that LGBTQ rights are human rights. So everything that we're doing is the LGBTQ rights are a part of that. The direct outreach is definitely bringing in the most effective community in North Texas, which is the LGBT community. That's the most effective organizing community. So y'all are going to be at the forefront of this. You already are. I mean, that's the thing. The battle against SB4. SB6, sorry. I get them mixed up, So
Four's bad too.
Four's bad too. The battle against SB6, though, is a good example of how the LGBTQ community can find allies on the other side of the aisle. Because when Joe Strauss came out against it at the Chamber of Commerce meeting, that told you everything you needed to know. Because there are issues right now that are being put forward by the extremists like Dan Patrick that don't make a lot of sense for his group. Like, he should have known that Joe Strauss was going to come out against that. So we got to find those conservatives that we can work with on issues like that And we also got to find language that's going to speak to them.
And you have conservatives that are coming and getting involved with Indivasable. I'm just curious, and that's a good thing, but I'm just curious, what are some of their concerns?
Well, I think that their big concern is that they keep hearing that this is the Tea Party of the left, and they are pretty scared that this is going to be a movement that's not welcome to them. So that's what we're telling them. Other areas might have a different attitude, but here in North Texas, we are an inclusive movement. We welcome in conservatives, and when they talk to us, they use the same language that we do. They talk about tyranny because they're terrified of it. If you talk to Joe Strauss, he'll tell you that conservatives like him, conservatives like John Kasich, they're looking at it and they're saying, well, the party is not my master. The party is a vehicle. And if the party starts to become my master, then maybe I don't want to be part of this party anymore. Maybe I need to find a new party. Or maybe I need to build a new party. What Evan McMullen was doing in the election.
My House rep has done the same thing when Trump became the nominee and then ultimately was elected. Jason Villalba in 114 in the Texas House, wrote an op-ed piece. It says, "This is not my party. They have left me.
Are we going to see some defections?
I think you already are seeing it.
No, and I mean real defections that, okay, I'm not sitting on that side, I'm sitting on this side now.
Well, if you watched Talk of the Nation this morning, that's where I got that language from John Kasich. He's out there now saying the party is a vehicle, it's not my master. And that's language that you're going to hear more and more. I mean, they're not ready to make a break yet because he is he's still the governor of Ohio. And in Ohio, I'm very sad to say, but in Ohio, the numbers in Ohio are bad. And the fact that John Kasich is still out there saying things like that when he knows it's going to hurt him in Ohio tells you a lot, because he knows the consequences. Read about the atrocities in Yugoslavia. The atrocities in Yugoslavia came directly out of the kind of rhetoric they were dealing with in this country right now. It's this ethnic nationalism. And there it was, Serbs were told that their neighbors, people that they grew up with, their Bosnian Muslim neighbors, were others. And it turned on a dime, and they started killing them. And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen here in our country, but that is the outcome of this kind of rhetoric. And we need to know the stakes. Those are the stakes. So when you hear people like Villalba, you hear people like Kasich talking, you know that they understand it. And I tell you what, Ted Cruz understands it too, but he doesn't care. Ted Cruz is all about supporting his ideology, his dogma, and if he has to make common cause with white nationalists, he'll do it.
Well, and that's the way a lot of, I think, the GOP in Congress are in both chambers. They see, wow, we've got power right now. Let's milk this for all it's worth for my interests, regardless of what horrible things are going on around us. And then I'll win something here, and I'll get gains that I've always wanted. Let's do that, and regardless of how the rest goes to hell, I'll get mine. And I think that's what they're dealing with. And so to say it's not my master, I think the rest of the GOP that's kissing Trump's ring every moment of the day is basically party over country. And that the appeal is, if you're not party over country, you need to speak up. And I think that's what you're seeing is a lot of like Kasich, stepping up and saying it's not my masters. It is country over party.
So here's an example of something I didn't understand in the news this week. Trump comes out with his anti-transgender discrimination executive order, and Betsy DeVos is the one arguing against it. She's the one saying, no, everybody has to be treated equally. No, we can't have discrimination in schools. No, we have to protect all children. And my question here is, why didn't that side of her come out during the
But notice she totally buckled. He called her into the Oval Office,
I get
and she
that
said,
she did,
okay, well, I'll go along with it then.
I get that she did. You're brand new as a secretary who was barely put into office. She doesn't have much power to not do that. But the fact that she came out and said those things, my question again is,
Well, that just shows you how disorganized they are, and this is our big advantage. You know, that they chose cabinet members like Betsy DeVos that have no idea what they're doing and that don't know how to stay on message. You know, like, that's the thing. Like, in a normal administration, they would have talked to her about this before they rolled out any new policy proposal. They don't talk to each other. So what that means is they're all off talking in different things. That's why Kellyanne Conway got sidelined recently, because she was talking at a turn.
Sorry to hear that.
Oh, yeah, it's really tragic. Yeah.
I just enjoy her so much.
This is the alternative Kellyanne, the one that's not anywhere.
Right.
We don't have to see her.
Well, you know
like
what's
this alternative.
She's
we need that
available.
alternative.
Let's see if we can get her on the show.
Absolutely.
Last night, I went to dinner with a friend of mine, and we surprisingly got into a long political discussion with our waitress, who was young, and
Your server.
she basically was a Trump supporter, and she was Hispanic and pregnant, and she just said that she just were looking for something different, but she just really did not like Hillary Clinton. So we got, and this went on for about an hour, and basically she said, well, I know he's not the best of guy, but don't worry, he's not going to win re-election. And I said, it's that complacency that got him in the office in the first place. So I just want you to reiterate, how many elections do we have a chance for in the next 2 years?
You have up to 15 different races that you'll be able to vote in.
And more if there are runoffs.
Yeah, there might actually be more. I mean, that's something that's important to remember, just because it doesn't necessarily end in May. Like, you might actually have to go back and vote in June for a runoff. So, but that's the reality, is that there is a fundamental disconnect between the realities of the American political system. Because you hear things like that, people talking about how there's no difference between Hillary Clinton and Trump. People talking about how, when he gets in, like, he's probably going to figure it out. And also talking about how his skill set was actually relevant to running the United States government.
I know.
Yes. This is the fundamental disconnect. This is a problem of education. This is a problem that we have at a very fundamental level in this country. People don't understand the way that our political system works. So that's why we have to start at the beginning. And we have to start at municipalities. So March 5th, everybody come out, Rockwall Harbor Amphitheater, 2 p.m. You'll be able to hear Victoria Niave speak. You'll be able to hear people like Jessica Camacho speak, who are running for the first time in municipal elections. Every county in North Texas is going to be represented. This is something that's really important. So you'll hear people from Grand Prairie, you'll hear people from Mansfield, hear people from Denton, people from Plano, people from Fort Worth, people from Dallas, and people from Rockwall, obviously. That's really important. So that's what we have to connect people with. And connecting them with people is going to be so crucial, because people ultimately, they care about ideas, but unless those are connected to people, then they're not going to fight the war. When you talk about civil rights, everybody thinks of Martin Luther King, because he's the shorthand. We need shorthands for all of these ideas that we're talking about. That's what this movement has to be about. And in DFW, that's definitely what it's about.
So how do people get involved with Indivasable if they want to? Who do they contact?
So you can contact me directly, info@indivisibledfw.com. Info@indivisibledfw.org. Our website is indivisibledfw.org. Facebook is the quickest way to connect with us. We do have a closed group, so you can find us there. But the open page is Indivisible DFW. It's with a space in between. Instagram, Indivisible DFW. Our Twitter, somebody grabbed Indivisible DFW really quickly, so it's actually DFW Indivisible, so at DFW Indivisible. So basically, any social media, we even actually have a Snapchat, so any social media platform that you're using, we're going to be on that. So websites, email, and all of the social media, we are trying to make sure that everybody can find us. And importantly, if you really want to get involved, you come out on the 5th to the Rockwall Harbor Amphitheater to the Rally for Texas, because that's going to be where you're going to have an opportunity to meet people from throughout the region that are doing this right now, that are doing the hard work. You're going to have an opportunity to meet with candidates that you can support, that you can volunteer for their campaigns, and you're going to be able to get a sense of what this is all about, whether or not this is something that you want to really put your time into, because we're all going to have to work. That's the reality. This is the fight of our lives. And we're all going to have to work really hard to make sure that autocracy doesn't rise in America.
And I think it's extraordinary because I know a lot of like soccer moms and such have never been political about anything. In fact, getting them out to vote, I mean, they're pretty faithful voters, but they don't really do much beyond that. They're calling their representatives in Austin and in D.C., 6-8 times a day, every day. And on many different topics, and it's just blown me away. And I've been so inspired by that. They're so pissed off and so alarmed by this threat of tyranny that they have changed their whole day. Their whole day is now completely structured in a different way, every day, in order to incorporate this fight. And I've been blown away just watching them readjust.
Yeah. And I'm an educational consultant. I help American students go to Europe to get their degrees. And what I realize is that everything that I do for that to help build global citizens, none of it matters unless we win this fight here, because what's happening here is happening in Europe. France is probably going to fall. I think Le Pen is probably going to win.
Mm-hmm.
And when that
Marine
happens,
Le Pen, for people who don't
Marine
know,
Le Pen
is this far-right extremist, Donald Trump type candidate.
but smart. That's the difference. Trump is stupid. Let's be honest. And he has very incompetent people around him. Le Pen does not. Le Pen is more similar to Putin. She's smart, and she's got smart people around him. And that's the difference between our authoritarianism and the European authoritarianism. The authoritarians in Europe, they come up through the political system, and they fight the political battles going up, so that they're battle hardened. They know what they're doing. So that's why right now Poland is about to collapse. Civil society might collapse this year. Hungary is already gone. And that's because they have smart authoritarians. We are very, very fortunate in this country because we have dumb authoritarians.
There's another part of the Hungarian part. I'm Hungarian. Hungarians are nuts. And that is part of the problem. And I say that referring to my family as well as others that I've met when I've been there.
Maybe I should be frightened of you.
You should.
Not.
You should.
I don't know why.
One of the things you said is that Indivisible DFW, or Indivisible, is really a moderate movement.
Right.
Is there room for, because the LGBT community mostly has been made to feel not moderate, even if we are. I mean, because what we're looking for are things like, we want to pay our taxes like everybody else. Yeah, we want to,
those serve in the military.
We want to serve in the military, right. But we've been made to not think of ourselves that way. When you say it's a moderate movement, describe really what you mean and how encompassing it is.
Well, we have to redefine what the American center is. The American center should not be a place that isn't welcoming to the LGBT community. That's something that might have been true 10 years ago, but in 2011, Obama switched his position, and with Obama came the country. So we do not need to exclude anybody. And the idea that in order to be a moderate, you have to exclude people based on their sexuality, it's ridiculous. So, of course, what we're fighting for is an America that is inclusive of all people of all gender identities, sexual identities. Everything is included in that, and we're not going to make a deal with anyone who is not on board with that. The conservatives that are coming in to this movement are conservatives that accept that people
People exist,
and people have different opinions, and it's okay to have different opinions on particular issues.
Well, it's not okay to have a different opinion on being anti-LGBT.
No, I'm not talking about that issue.
That's where the line is.
Right. Well, sure,
Thank
there
you
are
for
lines.
saying that, I agree.
But I'm talking about tax reform.
Yeah.
Let's say. My opinion of what tax reform should be and somebody else who's more conservative are going to be two different things.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's just debating an issue.
Yeah, policies, we can discuss those, but policies should not include, taking away people's human rights.
Exactly.
That's where the line has to be drawn.
Mm-hmm. And then, we've all seen this. I don't know if you have, but in our community, we've certainly felt this, people telling us that, Trump loves the gays. He said so. Well, that doesn't mean anything. And to have Peter Thiel on the stage at the Republican National Convention means nothing. He's a white billionaire guy.
Right.
If any of us walked on there, as just normal kind of middle class LGBT people, they'd have none of it.
So what do you have against us white billionaires?
But when Trump stood on the stage and said that he would protect the LGBT community, the context of that was against being killed by terrorists.
Yes, it was.
And he has no protections beyond that. He has no
employment protection.
Nothing.
Yeah.
It's just we won't let you. If you get killed by a terrorist, then that would piss me off. But nothing else would piss me off.
No.
So all of this stuff that's happening with the trans community and the lashing out, because the trans community is paying for marriage equality. They're paying the price through the conservatives' hate for all of us over marriage equality, because they've been peeing for decades in public places, and it's not made a difference.
Right.
So,
and one of the reasons I asked this was, obviously Lerone would be welcome, obviously Josh and I would be welcome. I wanted to make sure that Patti would also be welcome, since she's a left-wing extremist.
Yes. Patti, I'd like to introduce you. I'd like to invite you formally to our rally on March 5th at Rockwell Harbor Amphitheater at 2 p.m.
Love this guy.
Please join us.
I think you ought to do Pledge Strive with us.
You really should.
972-647-1893. I mean, he would get that.
Info at indivisibledfw.org.
And do you have we have like 30 seconds. Are there any other events planned or not yet?
Yeah, on March 11th, there's going to be a fundraiser. Donald Trump Jr. is going to be there. Ted Cruz is going to be there. We're going to be meeting at the Texas Theater, 231 West Jefferson Boulevard at 1 p.m. And then we're going to be heading over to the Omni to protest. So come on out. The other thing that we're asking women throughout the region to do is to start hashtagging Red State Women and talking about, for International Women's Day, which is on the 8th, what your life is like as a woman living in red states.
Jay, I want to thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much.
And as things come back, let us know.
Like to.
Yeah. We'll be back next week. Our guest is Oliver Bloomer.
Dr. Oliver Bloomer.
And we'll be back next week with more.
This is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please leave comments below, or like, follow, or subscribe to us and get notices of all our videos. We love it, even when you call.